What is up, Anime Alert Nation? I'm your host, Killer Kentstar. Let's get right into the news. In today's news, local anime character does not understand that when people are trying to kill you, you must run. She, the Ultimate Weapon's very own Nori, decides to care about the building being destroyed more than running away from the terrorist attack that is happening in his city. This is what he has to say when a plane is destroying the building right in front of him.
Oh no, they just fixed that!
Oh no, they just fixed that!
Move your ass, Wolverine!
Spartans! What is your profession?
Few shows infuriate me. I've seen disappointing shows, I've seen bad shows, and I've even seen shows that no one should watch. However, most of these shows never make me feel angry after watching them. While I've only reviewed one on this channel so far that received a no recommendation, with that being Glasslip, today's show could possibly become the second. Even if it isn't, this show drove me nuts. What's up guys, it's Kent from Spartan Media Reviews, here to review the anime Saikano. No, not the good one, the other one known as She, the Ultimate Weapon. Does this show deserve a watch? Let's find out. She, the Ultimate Weapon takes place in another generic school like a lot of romance series and follows our main characters Shuji and Chisei. Just recently, Shuji and Chisei have started a relationship and they couldn't be happier. However, one day, Shuji and Chisei's town is attacked in a sudden air raid. While trying to escape, Shuji comes across Chisei shooting down enemy fighters with a transformed body resembling that of a large weapon. Shuji soon finds out that Chisei is in fact the Ultimate Weapon, and she's important for turning the tides of the war in their favor. Shuji and Chisei must now realize what is happening and try to deal with these struggles. She, the Ultimate Weapon, has such an interesting take on a story. Instead of going the route of angel beats and having characters never die, Saikano just says screw it and decides to kill off almost anyone in the show. The ideas surrounding the show are extremely depressing as well, never seeing a glimpse of hope throughout the entire series. Seeing stories like these are extremely rare, which I find to be refreshing. With all that said, She, the Ultimate Weapon's story is pretty disappointing. I like to call the story of Saikano My Life as a Teenage Robot, Depressing Edgy Anime Romance Edition. Saikano has such an interesting premise going for it, but they decide to take the romance route, more along the lines of a She Clan ad than anything else, which felt so cheesy and boring in my opinion. It also doesn't help that you can't get attached to any of the characters, but I'll go more into that later. The romance elements of the show were really awful in my opinion. The amount of flip-flopping and fake feelings showcased in the romantic aspects of the story made everything seem fake and pointless. What's worse is that the majority of the story, in my opinion, was extremely boring. With such catastrophic things happening throughout the series, I would have expected more details regarding the struggles of not only Chisei's transformation, but the overall war as well. They put far too much focus on romance, which made everything bland. I also would have scrapped Shuji as a character entirely. Chisei initially was such an interesting character. Instead of focusing on the romance between her and Shuji, the writer should have continued along the lines of her transformation, both physically and mentally. I don't know if that would improve the disappointing aspects of the show, but it would have at least stopped it from being a cliche, boring romance series with shock factor. For anyone who hasn't seen Akame ga Kill, one of the many gripes people have with the series is the pointless character deaths. If you think Akame ga Kill did a poor job in deaths of characters, you will think that Saikano is laughable at best. I couldn't stand any of these characters for a variety of reasons. One, too many of the characters died far too quickly, never progressing at all, aside from a few lines of dialogue. Our main characters, in my opinion, were not only far too underdeveloped, but they also were so infuriating when watching this show. The actions our characters make throughout the show were so idiotic, I had no idea what they were thinking. Shuji has to be one of the most clueless main characters I have seen in a romantic drama. If you truly cared about someone like you said you did, do something about it. Hugging and kissing the person may help ease the pain for an instant, but it doesn't help if that person dies. I will say our other main character, Chisei, is at least interesting in terms of personality. Having two separate minds in a way led to her making drastic decisions that hurt many people. However, sometimes she is unable to control that aspect aspect of herself, which helped develop her character a little. With that said, overall character development was poor. Even after finishing the series, the only two character names I remember are our main characters. It would be one thing if we saw some of the supporting characters interacting with the main cast, but they were killed off far too quickly for me even to remotely care about them. Saikano's overall animation was pretty bad. Falling under the same lines as Welcome to the NHK, the overall product looks below average at best. Backgrounds were bland and overall animations were disappointing as well. I will say for the small amount of CG in the show, they did a nice job with that aspect. While being easy to spot, the CG for its time is nice. When it comes to the character designs, they were extremely distracting. Everyone had more oval-shaped faces compared to the normal character designs, which in my eyes caused everyone's faces to look extremely bloated. The opening and ending animations were extremely simplistic, with not much to go on, but for what they were okay. Saikano has an average soundtrack, with no track having significant impact to the overall series. I will say that the sound effects used throughout the show, while not great, are at least noticeable. The opening is simple but is still enjoyable to listen to, and the ending, while not as good as the opening, is still okay. Now I get to talk about the voice acting. She, the Ultimate Weapon, has one of the worst English dubs that I have seen. The casting of the voices was fine, but the execution was on the level of early dubs. The lip movements were off at times, and the emotional scenes had no impact whatsoever. Overall, this is probably the best aspect of the show. Now, with everything that I have said, do I recommend watching She, the Ultimate Weapon? No. While the premise itself is interesting, both in terms of writing and overall emotion, Saikano fails in almost every category in how to produce an anime. The story veered off from its creative premise by turning into a terrible romance, the characters were either bland or dead by the end of the show, the animation and character designs were terrible, and the English dub was laughable. I'm sure that people will think I'm far too harsh on this show, but when shock factor is the only thing keeping the story afloat, there isn't anything positive to say about it. Spartan Media Reviews gives She, the Ultimate Weapon a final score of 2 out of 10 and a no recommendation. If you are really interested in watching this show, you can check out this series for free over on Hulu. Now, what are your thoughts on She, the Ultimate Weapon? Comment below. If you enjoyed this review, hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. You can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, I would really appreciate that as well. Follow me on Twitter and Hummingbird to keep up to date with the current things that I am doing, and with all that said, I will catch you guys in my next review. Thank you for watching.